Welcome back to Breaking News Zimbabwe, the podcast where we give you the very latest breaking news from Zimbabwe. You know what time it is. Check it out.
Wavy gang. You already don't know.
So the Zimbabwean government has decided to compensate white farmers who were evicted off land that never belonged to them in the first place. The Zimbabwean government will this month pay an initial $20 million to foreign white farmers who lost land in farm invasions under the former leader Robert Mugabe in the early 2000s. The Zimbabwean government in total is set to pay around $3.5 billion in reparations to these foreign white farmers, most of them being of British heritage. The word compensation is being thrown around a lot, but it looks more like reparations to me. It sounds rather convenient they're calling it compensation, but it's actually reparations. That's what it is. That's the most appropriate description of what's happening here. These white farmers are being made whole.
Last year, about 1,300 former white farmers accepted a 10-year government bond from which they will receive annual interest payments. The first tranche, about $20 million, is due to be paid this month.
Farmers have now put in their KYC documents. They have to prove their ownership. 440 have gone to Ministry of Lands, have been accepted. Okay, and there's about another 700 odd in the process of getting their documentation in order.
Let's ignore the fact that the land they are being compensated for was stolen in the first place. All the black people who were killed and displaced by the land grabs orchestrated by the British Empire at the beginning of the century were never compensated. Now let's cross over to the other side of the world and let's head off to Samoa, because Samoa is preparing to host the next Commonwealth meeting. At the top of the agenda for many African and Caribbean leaders is the issue of reparations. Naturally so. The Commonwealth was built off the foundation of slavery and colonialism executed by the British Empire. Without a doubt, the worst crime against humanity. Millions of black people were killed and millions were displaced and scattered all over the world. Without a doubt, this was certainly the worst crime against humanity and probably the first case of human trafficking that's known to man, because the British Empire, to be honest with you, was the tip of the spear when it comes to human trafficking. So naturally, the black leaders attending the Commonwealth meeting are asking for reparations. Black people want to be made whole, justifiably so. However, the response from the British government and the monarchy has been very blunt and simple. They will not apologize for slavery or colonialism, nor will they consider paying reparations for their crimes against humanity. It's a solid no. They're not doing it. They're not considering it. So any ideas you had of reparations, simply forget them. It's not going to happen.
Well, you ain't getting reparation.
What? So my question is, why does Zimbabwe have to pay reparations to 4,000 white farmers of British heritage? Why are black Africans forced to pay reparations to white Westerners when they can't extend the same courtesy to us? Keir Starmer made it clear that he has no intentions of paying reparations to not a single black person. So why are we being forced to pay reparations to white Europeans? It's a simple question. If you're not going to pay reparations to Africans and Caribbeans, then you shouldn't expect us to pay reparations to your British farmers. We shouldn't have to do that, right? Makes sense. But the reality is that if we don't pay reparations to those white farmers, the IMF will continue to blacklist us like they've done for the last nearly 30 years. You know, they'll just blacklist us until our country turns to complete shit, of which we're not very far from that. We have no choice but to pay because Zimbabweans continue to suffer for trying to take back what was stolen from them over 100 years ago. And it's not that far in memory because a lot of people still remember the time when they were able to live freely before the British settlers came to the shores of Africa. So it's not that far away in terms of history. So I don't understand the expectation of wanting us to compensate your British settlers who were moved off the land, but you have got no intention of making whole the black Africans who were displaced and killed as a result of your Commonwealth.
It's a major milestone in my view. It's an important step, obviously, going forward in terms of even the resolution of this whole land issue and land question.
The unfortunate thing is that our leaders are not capable of thinking outside the box and coming up with strategies which don't require us to be dependent on the IMF. And the only way they're able to hold us, hostage in this situation is because our leaders are completely dependent on the IMF. Our leaders are not capable of creating value in Zimbabwe so that we can look after ourselves and build our own economies of the future. They always have to turn to the IMF begging for a handout, and right now they're looking for another handout.
What?
Land was rightfully redistributed under the land redistribution program that was spearheaded by Robert Mugabe. And like Keir Starmer said, no reparations must be paid and no apologies must be made. What's done is done. If the British are not going to pay reparations for colonialism and slavery, then there should be no expectation for any African country, including Zimbabwe, to pay reparations for taking the land that was stolen back. 50-50. That's the way it should be. Check it out.